Okay, let's talk about one of the biggest shifts happening right now. And I'm not talking about the tech itself, but what's happening inside our own heads. We're diving into the deep psychological impact of AI, what some people are starting to call the AI injury. And it's this fundamental challenge to our identity, to our whole sense of self-worth.
You know, to really get the scale of what we're facing, you gotta look back at history. Sigmund Freud said that humanity's had a few major blows to its ego over the centuries. First, you had Copernicus back in 1543, who told us, hey, you're not actually the center of the universe. That was a tough pill to swallow. Then Darwin comes along in 1859 and says, oh, and by the way, you're not some special divine creation, you're just another branch on the tree of life. And now? Well, now AI is delivering what might be the third great injury. It's aiming right at the last thing we thought we had all to ourselves, our claim to be the sole keepers of reason and intellect.
So what makes this third injury so different? Well, this time, the challenge isn't coming from the stars or from the animal kingdom. It's coming from something we built. And it's aimed squarely at our minds, the very thing we always believed made us unique.
So who's feeling this threat the most? It seems to be hitting the cognitive elite the hardest. You know, people whose entire identity, their entire sense of self, is wrapped up in what they can do with their minds. We're talking about programmers who take pride in writing beautiful code, writers who live for their prose, doctors for their incredible diagnostic skills. When a machine can suddenly do that thing, and maybe even do it better, it's not just a threat to your job, it's a threat to the very core of who you are.
And the reaction to this? Well, it follows this almost textbook pattern. First up is denial. You hear things like, it's not really thinking, it's just a stochastic parrot. Basically, it's just mimicking intelligence without any real understanding. Then, as the tech gets undeniably better, that denial can morph into anger. This is plagiarism, it's stealing my work. But that last stage, that's the deepest one, a profound sense of disorientation. It's a question that cuts right to the bone. If my ideas can be generated by a machine, what's my unique value? Who am I really? This brings us to the next massive piece of this puzzle, the way AI is challenging our society's entire relationship with work and effort. What we're witnessing is a fundamental break, a decoupling of hard work from the value we assign to it. And that is a huge, huge shift. For literally centuries, our culture has been built on this idea. You could call it the Protestant work ethic. We believe that struggle gives something dignity, that hard work is noble. You look at a beautiful hand-carved piece of furniture and you value not just the object, but the hours of effort, the sweat equity that went into it. AI just completely shatters that connection. A breathtaking piece of art, a complex legal document, a perfect bit of code, it can all be generated almost effortlessly in just a few seconds. This quote just perfectly sums up the new dilemma. When there's a tool that's so much more efficient just sitting right there, does the old, hard way of doing things still look noble? Or does it just start to look, well, foolish? Is the human coder just digging with a spoon while the AI excavator sits there, engine running? It really makes you wonder if we're going to keep valuing the struggle or if we're just going to start valuing the result. Now, a common argument you hear all the time is, oh, don't worry about it. AI is just another tool, like a calculator. It's a really comforting thought, right? But it might also be a dangerously flawed way to look at it. Let's break down what's called the calculator fallacy. So the fallacy is this mistaken belief that AI is just going to automate all the boring, low-level stuff, which will then free us humans up to do all the big, important, higher-level thinking. It sounds great in theory, but it totally misses a critical difference about what AI can actually do. Think of it like a ladder. Calculators, they automated the bottom rung, computation. And that was great. It let us climb higher up the ladder to things like reasoning and strategy. But here's the thing. AI doesn't just stay on the bottom rung. It climbs the ladder with us. It can reason, it can create, it can plan. It's not just a tool for one specific task anymore. It's more like a partner or maybe a competitor at every single level of abstract thought. And this fundamentally changes our role from being the pilot to being a passenger. Think about it. A pilot is active, they're in control, they have full agency. A passenger? They're passive. They've given up that control. And while being a passenger is definitely easier, over time it's psychologically corrosive. We start to lose our sense of agency, that feeling that we're the ones in the driver's seat of our own intellectual lives. And that, right there, is a massive blow to our identity. So, if we're all destined to be intellectually outmatched, how are we supposed to cope with that? Is there a path forward? Well, for a possible answer, we can actually look to the world of chess because they went through this exact same crisis more than 25 years ago.
Picture it. The year is 1997. The whole world is watching as the greatest human chess mind on the planet, Garry Kasparov, is beaten by a machine, IBM's Deep Blue. The reaction was immediate panic. Pundits and experts everywhere declared the end of chess. I mean, if a machine is the best player, why would any human even bother to play anymore? It really felt like a funeral for this ancient, beloved game. But then, a really weird thing happened. Chess didn't die. In fact, it boomed. It's more popular today than it has ever been. But the reason we watch it completely changed. We don't watch human grandmasters like Magnus Carlsen to see perfect, optimal moves. We've got AI engines like Stockfish for that, and they're flawless. No, we watch humans for the human stuff. The agonizing struggle, the incredible pressure, the brilliant comebacks, and yeah, even the heartbreaking mistakes. And that is the profound lesson here. The second we accepted that we could never, ever win the optimal game against a machine, we started to focus on playing the human game. The value shifted away from the cold, perfect result and toward the warm, messy, imperfect process. We're all basically becoming chess players in a post-Deep Blue world. This leads us right to our final and, honestly, maybe the most important point of all. If the lesson from chess holds true for everything else, then we are on the verge of a massive reevaluation of where we find value. We're about to see a huge shift in focus, away from the product and toward the process. So let's ask the critical question, the million-dollar question. In a world where a near-perfect essay or a brilliant piece of code or an accurate medical diagnosis can be generated instantly for basically free, where does the value even go? What's left for us to sell, to create, to be proud of? The answer seems to be provenance. The value shifts to the story behind the thing. We'll start to value things specifically because a human made them. I mean, think about it. We already do this. We pay way more for handmade pottery, not because it's technically more perfect, it usually isn't, but because we value the human touch. We're shifting from an economy of competence to an economy of provenance, where the story of who made it and how they made it becomes the main source of its worth. And so it's pretty wild to think that the most valuable label of the 21st century might not be some luxury brand name. In a world just saturated with machine-generated perfection, the ultimate marker of value, the true luxury, might just be these three simple words, made by human. So what's that going to mean for you?